Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you are doing quite well. Stephen Willis with the POMcast here on this Friday, October 16th. Ole Miss versus Arkansas in Fayetteville at 2:30 on the SEC Network tomorrow. We're looking pretty good weather-wise. It looks like it could be a quite breezy game, 24 hours or so from kickoff. I guess 36 hours or so, whatever. The high tomorrow is supposed to be about 70. Should be about 70 at kickoff because that's going to equate to the high, the 230. But winds coming out of the south at 21 miles per hour. It looks like it's going to be quite a breezy day and could affect the passing game. It's definitely probably going to affect the kicking game. So just a heads up. It's going to be a breezy day in Fayetteville. And of course, you are listening to Friday's POMcast. I'm Stephen Willis. Of course, you can like us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Old Positively. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast, POMcast. Or you can follow our Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. And of course, you can join us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We're streaming every day, even though we're not doing video currently. We're streaming because we want to set the routine and the time to put video in the places. So we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, because eventually it's going to be a TV show. If audio is your bag, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, or Pandora. So that's how you can listen to us. Hit subscribe. It'll download directly to your phone and be ready whenever you are to listen. We're only doing it in 30 minutes a day. It's not that much of a time requirement. You can listen to us on the way to the store and on the way back and pretty much hear the whole show. So that is the rundown. Now, we talked yesterday about COVID and 2 games being postponed and outbreaks happening in other places. And that puts us at a unique position. Now, I consider myself to be an early warning system of such, of national trends. Now, we are obviously going up and heading for a spike, and it's obviously in Europe at the moment. They're going up. They're hitting their second wave now. The second wave is happening. We don't notice it here because we never left our first wave. It's just a little bit lower degree of outbreak. But it's always been here. We're at 9 months still. And with it upticking everywhere, I mean, even the president's got it, Nick Saban has got it, coaches are starting to get it, outbreaks are happening at teams. There's going to be a push to basically shut down the facility in the next week or two. We can do our work to stop it as best we can. We have to wear a mask. We have to social distance. And if you don't have to go out, don't go out. Don't go to a restaurant just because you're bored. Eat at home. Because the trend is, at the moment, more and more games getting missed. And honestly, if your state allows early voting, I would go now, because this is only going to get worse over the next 20 or so days. There's nobody willing to change their own behavior to make this better. So you have to protect yourself. So the thought is that eventually, it's finally come to the SEC. Florida and Missouri, or Florida and LSU, and Missouri and Vanderbilt are postponed. Ole Miss has an outbreak of a couple players, and Alabama does as well, although Nick Saban and the AD get all the press there. Which means it's probably happening in other places as well. Now, when this is all over, how you handled this, if you cut corners, if you were not forthright about what's going on with your team, it could cost you your job. And it doesn't really matter who you are, save Nick Saban. But that's where we're going. So I'm just telling you to be careful and do what you have to do and protect yourself as best you can, because nobody else is going to. Nobody else has the responsibility. Nobody else has the wherewithal to protect you. They're not even protecting themselves. So it becomes an issue of Darwin. So protect yourself, go to the game, live your life, have fun, but just be wary that basically other people are biological weapons. So keep that in mind, as this is likely going to get worse before it gets better. We are basically in this the worldwide second or third waves. But for us, it's all kind of been level. So, yay. All right, but Ole Miss plays Arkansas in Fayetteville at 2:30 on the SEC Network. Tune in to that game to see Lane Kiffin's magnificent offense and Matt Corral's remarkable turnaround as the Rebels take on the Razorbacks. Attendance for games up at Arkansas, I think, is at 20%. I'm not anticipating noise being that big of a problem, although it could. You never can tell. You gotta have a bunch of people that are really excited about football. They're going to be a little louder. They could be in the 30 to 35,000 attendance range noise-wise. So, Friday POMcast, segment 1 in the books. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, segment 2 of the POMcast. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. And we have Arkansas this weekend. We have a lot of good stuff to think about. Spend your afternoon at 2:30 watching the Rebs and the Hogs on the SEC Network. That's available to you. Now, let's get into what we can expect from Arkansas, and particularly Barry Odom and the defensive package I expect them to put in. Ole Miss has been very good with explosive plays so far this year. Now, you can't just rush 3 and drop 8 because Ole Miss will just run it down your throat. They can't do the state defense to eliminate explosives. There's another path here that they're going to have to probably mimic what Kentucky did against Ole Miss and try and stack the box and play 3 deep. But I expect a light version of the game plan they used against Mississippi State. They're not going to do it every play, but I expect them quite a bit on passing situations to rush 3 and drop 8. I expect them to, on short yardage situations, to play basically conventional defense. Now, they do not have the athletes that they are going to after they recruit. That's a no-brainer. But they play really hard and they're very physical. And by physical is they try to hit you harder than you hit him. And they're willing to do that over and over and over again. It was Barry Odom's trademark at Missouri. It's what he did. And it led to a physical defense, and they were good at times and they were bad at times. It was an inconsistency. He's not known as the best recruiter in the world. So it's about making lesser players better by making them more physical and more aggressive. That's what Barry Odom does. That's what he's done all the way back to Memphis. So I expect in passing situations for them to play a version of what they did against Mississippi State. They think they can do that, and if they eliminate big plays, all of a sudden they have to make Ole Miss work for it. Now, Ole Miss is going to attack that by running the football. This is one of those games where you really have to run to set up the pass as far as the opening and the explosives in the passing game. I expect to see them run a hefty dose of the running backs, especially after last week, Snoop Connor and Jerry and Ely getting 120 yards apiece against the number 2 team in the country. Nobody they're going to face this week is as talented as what they faced last week. So they should be very confident in running the football and their ability to do that. And I think that's going to be a large part of the game plan. Remember, with this offense, Lane Kiffin incorporates 10 or so shot plays that are designed to be explosives. And we can't really do those unless we run the ball effectively. And I expect them to do it. I expect them to put over 2 bills running the football. I'm not expecting a 260, but it's one of those things, if they can do it, if they can do it, they can run the ball and it'll snowball on Arkansas. And it has a chance to snowball on Arkansas. I mean, that's the plan. Defensively for Ole Miss, now we have to see this COVID outbreak that happened, and we have to see which players are affected. Now, Ole Miss does a little bit different things, and that's taken a little while to incorporate. Now, the worst case scenario with this COVID situation is more players get more reps, which we need depth on that side of the ball desperately. But it takes reps away from people that need them to get better. And they were in that position. Remember, I talked a couple of weeks ago that coaches, due to the lack of spring and a lack of fall camp, they lost about 40 hours of video in which they could use to make decisions on things like personnel, in which they can make decisions based off of scheme. Are we a better zone team? Are we a better man team? Are we a 3-man? Are we a 4-man? What is our personnel fit? And we're seeing right now our personnel fits truly a 3-4 because we have these slower linebackers that weigh about 250 pounds because that's what we built. We had a 3-man defensive line. The 4 linebackers were, I don't know, Kadir Shepard at about 250, Sam Williams at about 250, Momo Sonogo at about 240, 250, and Lukia Henry at about 240. Those are big dudes, and they struggle in coverage and in space. That's the downside of changing the personnel from a 3-4 to a 4-3, because it takes a little while to build that personnel back up. Those aren't bad players. We saw last year. Lakia Henry led us in tackles last year. I mean, but it's just difficult whenever you are responsible for 4 yards and now you're being told you're responsible for 10. Can you get there? Because the guy on the other side of the field so far this year has been quicker. Now, I don't know about what we're going into in Fayetteville, but we need to keep that in mind. We need to understand what is happening. We need to set expectations, which I told you before the season. Celebrate the positives, ignore the negatives, because negatives are going to be outside your control and it will just drive you crazy. That is what we're dealing with this season. Now that we're about to hit the COVID games, there's going to be teams that if they take a loss of their quarterback, you could lose. If Matt Corral goes down, Ole Miss could lose. The reason John Rice Plumlee is still at quarterback and playing quarterback is because at any moment you could lose Matt Corral for 2 to 3 weeks. And they don't want an emergency quarterback. They want a quarterback. Matt Corral went out for a play against Alabama, and John Rice Plumlee went in, threw a pass. There should put the doubt that John Rice Plumlee is not the backup. There's this narrative about what's going on where people try to connect the dots instead of actually reporting on what is happening. I've heard people say that John Rice Plumlee is not the backup. If Matt Corral went down, somebody else would go in. And it's all because they're trying to justify some kind of narrative they had before, which doesn't matter. Who cares? It really does not matter. When Matt Corral went out there and balled out against Florida, that officially no longer mattered. People trying to denigrate John Rice Plumlee for the perspective of them being right in March is stupid. And just so you know, if you're doing that, I am judging you. Like literally. It doesn't matter. We are all Ole Miss fans. Hope for a quarterback. Don't root for a quarterback. And this whole philosophy of good and evil in a quarterback room on the same team is stupid. It is ridiculous. But when Matt Corral did go down, the backup quarterback was John Rice Plumlee, essentially killing that narrative. Shocking. All right. Now, if you look at Arkansas's offense, they are a mirror image basically of ours. They do not have talented players like we do, or extremely talented players. They do have talented players. Their wide receiver core is not bad. Felipe Franks is not bad. And when Rakeem Boyd is in the lineup, obviously he is not bad. So they're just, they're like a C Ole Miss on offense. And that's fine. They're so far behind the 8 ball, working 2-3 systems at a time. You just need time to develop, because there's still some Brett Bielema on that team. There's Chad Morris recruited all over that roster, and some Sam Pittman. 3 different head coaches. And you need time to develop. Kendall Briles has done a heck of a job this season. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the stuff he has in store this weekend. But he's done a heck of a job. But his talent is not where it's going to be. And they're coming. They really are, because they're running what we are. All right. Last segment of the week, POMcast, Stephen Willis. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, last segment of the week. POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for listening. I do wish we had frequency numbers like 102.9, the POMcast, Stephen Willis coming at you right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. Thank you for listening. But yeah, that was my radio voice. Believe it or not, back in a previous life, several of them ago, I did a midday radio show called The Wayback Machine. And during those 2 hours, Monday through Friday, from 11 to 1, we played songs from basically the 60s and 70s, but a lot of 70s rock. Let's just say a lot of Led Zeppelin was played, and a lot of Steve Miller Band, and a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival. So that was a lot of fun. That's where I kind of cut my teeth in radio. Had a sports talk show called the Sports Guys of Montalena in 2003, which La Maddalena is in Italy, if y'all don't know. That was on the American Forces Network back, that was 17 years ago. And, David Cutcliffe, Frank Solich, and Ron Zook were nice enough to come on the show and, kind of help us out. And it was a lot of fun. And after I got out of the military, David Cutcliffe gave me the job at Ole Miss, and off I went. And it kind of started everything, and that was really cool. And I would, run through a brick wall for Coach Cut. Then O got to Ole Miss, and everything fell apart, and I went into the national media, and I mean, everything that has happened in the last 17 years has prepared me for this moment. And that's pretty cool. And that's honestly what the goal should be anyway. So it should be a lot of fun to basically go on this journey once we go to video and y'all get to see my ugly mug every day. And we basically do a TV show, and we're planning on doing, anatomy of a touchdown, 3 for the weekend. We're planning on a weather report, like the local news, all to inform you about anything that could be Ole Miss related. We're going to do a uniform watch. We're going to try and have a segment per day. And that'll go along with the video podcast. So you'll come out of a break or going into a break. I'll tell you what's going on, or in the middle of the break, basically, if, we have to figure out how to set it up, and we're going to do that over time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The next year and a half is going to be amazing. And I do have it planned out, and, we should be investing in about $20,000 worth of equipment sometime in the near future. We're trying to decide if we're going to invest here or we're going to wait until we get down to Florida to invest. Just because you kind of want to set up this equipment once and just let it sit there, because it's a lot. And we have all our lights and everything and our board, and we're going to make a true studio. It's going to be a TV studio. It might be set up to where I have to run it because, obviously. But I've already built the wireframe for the initial graphics and the look of it. A lot of wood grain, a lot of brick. It should be pretty cool. But those graphics are built. So it's just a matter of waiting until this thing launches. And it's going to be really cool. We're going to build a whole show, and we're going to do, unique things. We're going to try and get some interviews, or we're going to do what we need to do. Those interviews will be video as well. They'll be boxed up. You'll see a cool double, triple, quadruple box on the screen. It's going to look like what you see on the SEC network. And it's just going to be really cool. And our idea is doing this will bring eyeballs to Ole Miss. It will help the fan base. Free content eliminates access problem that colleges are currently having. You can see with attendance, it's going down, down, down. It's because there's an access problem. And this is to eliminate that access problem. This is to people age 12 to age 30. That's kind of the target demo. And we can bring more people to Ole Miss by doing this, by just being accessible and being all over social media. You will have noticed that I am everywhere on social media. Everywhere has a stream. And time-wise, all these things are set up to go to all the social media sites and just be accessible to where you are already. So we do appreciate you stopping by. This is not even a beta of Positively Ole Miss. This is more of, like I said in the beginning, it's been more of a practice to get used to talking, to get used to being on broadcast TV, because it's all coming. All right, enjoy the game. POMcast, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much.